If you want to find out how to create a snowflake postcard like this and draw snowflakes in Illustrator, you're in the right place, and that's here in the Work Smarter Not Harder dojo with me, Tony Harmer, aka the Design Ninja. Okay, so I'm going to start a brand new Illustrator document here from the Art and Illustration profile. I'm using the postcard preset, although you could use anything, of course, of your own. And I think what we'll do first of all is we'll create a nice background. So I'm going to tap M on my keyboard to get the rectangle tool, and then I'm going to go up to one of the corners here, which also allows me to make sure that my smart guides are on. If you're not seeing those, Command or Control U to do that. And then I'm going to draw a rectangle across like so. Now, I don't want a stroke on this, so what I'm going to do is bring the stroke to the front. So if I tap X on my keyboard, you'll see it in the toolbox. I can swap the priority there and then just hit the slash key to remove the stroke. I'm then going to tap X again to bring the fill to the front, and I'm going to hit the period key on my keyboard, which will apply a gradient to that fill. Now, as I'm in a new version of Illustrator or a newer version, I can go ahead and use the freeform gradient. But if not, if you're in an earlier version, then maybe just something like a radial gradient will do. So I'll click for the freeform gradient, and you'll see that it appears like so. A bit of analysis gives it this idea of what I actually want in color, which actually isn't what I want in color. But I'm going to double click here, and let's make this nice and warm. Okay, so I'm just going to choose this magenta here. Again, of course, you could use entirely your own colors here. I'm going to use a bit of orange there, and I'm going to come down to this one. I'm actually going to delete that one and that one, okay, because I can then go and select this first point here and come down and click in other places, and it just copies that color across. And I'm actually going to drop one at the top here and then just bring this in like so. Now, just to make it so it's not quite as regular as a radial gradient, I can go ahead and just move these points around. And you can add more if you want. It doesn't impact your file at all by doing that. And you can even make them slightly stronger by spreading out this radius just here if you want to. So I think that's just fine as it is. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to lock that. So Command or Control 2 to lock that background. And then we'll get the rulers in. So Command R or Control R for the rulers. Okay, and I'm just going to drag in a guide like so. Something around about that point there will do for me. And then I'll go back and I'll drag another one in. But as I drag, I'm just going to hold down the Alt or Option key to change the orientation of that guide. Although equally, you could just go over to the left-hand ruler if you wanted to. Now I'm going to get my selection tool by tapping V on my keyboard. I'm going to make sure here that my guides are temporarily unlocked. Okay, here I'm using the properties panel to do that. And I'll click on this guide here, and then I'm just going to align this to the center of the artboard because I want this to be central. I can then go ahead and just click away from the guide and then lock my guides, and we're pretty much ready to go. So I'm going to do this one with a star. So I'm going to get the star tool here from the toolbox, and to make my way to the center, just here, you'll see it says intersect just there at the intersection of the guides, and simply click. Okay, we can then determine a radius for the star and the number of points. So I'm just going to make sure that radius 2 is bigger than radius 1. Okay, and hit OK. And there's my star. Now, as it happens, I'd like to rotate that around. So tap R on the keyboard to get the rotate tool. Hit return to bring out the rotate dialog. Okay, and then we're going to need to rotate this around. I think by 30 degrees should do just fine because we want the points pointing basically to north and south in the document just here. Okay, that's great. Hit OK, and then we can start working on this. So let's give this an actual stroke attribute here. So I'm going to go for white on mine, and I'm going to increase the weight of that, okay, till it's about sort of yay thick, something like that. 10 points is working just here. Now let's zoom in on that to make it easier to see. I also noticed here, by the way, that I need to adjust my background. I could do that right now by using Option Command 2 or Alt Control 2 to do that, and then just get in and just change that. Okay, and then just relock it, Command or Control 2 to do that. It still looks like I've been slightly wide of the mark, but not to worry. Okay, so now we've got the star like so. What I'm going to do is add a little bit of a stylized look to this. So I'm going to select the star. I'm going to go to my brushes here. Now, by default, usually you can find one of these charcoal brushes in this set, but don't worry if you can't at the moment, because you'll see where to find it in a moment. I'm going to change that to this charcoal version here like so. I'm then going to introduce a new stroke. Now the way to do that is Option Command / on a Mac. That's Alt Control / on Windows. Okay, or you can go into the appearance panel here and add a new stroke using this widget if you want to. I'm then going to go to my brushes, and in the loader at the bottom left, I'm going to go to Artistic and Chalk and Charcoal, just there. Normally, I'd steer well clear of these, by the way, but this is one of those instances that's an exception. So I'm going to choose a different brush here, like this Chalk Round. That's perhaps a bit excessive. Let's find something like this. I'm just trying to get some nice jagged edges here, and also with the two working together, this brush is filling in the gaps where the other brush didn't quite cut it. That's too strong. That's not quite right. And again, you might have to move around with this to get exactly what you're after. Now, I think that actually if I close that and just undo a couple of times, for me, I was kind of exactly where I wanted to be just there. And once I've got that, I'm going to go to my graphic styles panel and click to add that as a graphic style. And if you want to name it, just simply hold down Alt or Option as you create the style, and then you'll get the chance to name it there. Although you can equally double click on it afterwards and name it if you want to. And naming generally is a good idea. Okay, so what I'm going to do just for a moment, and this is just my own personal preference, is just to reset this bounding box. So I'll go up to the Object menu, down to Transform, and choose Reset Bounding Box. Just makes me happier when I can see a nice straight box on a shape like so. So next then, what I want to do is tap the / key on my keyboard to get the line tool here, and then I'm going to get a topmost point here, and holding down Shift, I'm going to click and drag upwards like so to create a nice stroke vertically like so. I can then go ahead and change this stroke. So what I'm going to do is click on the stroke hyperlink here in the properties panel or in the control strip, whichever works for you. And I'm going to go ahead and add an arrowhead at this end point. Now, what I'm after is actually here. There's sort of a circle, okay, with a point in it just there, or a hollow, or even though it's not actually hollow. But we'll go ahead and do that. And I think that size at the moment is just fine. I'm then going to go ahead and add my graphic style. I'll do it at this point, by the way, just in case, okay, it messes with that circle, which it has done. So I'm going to go ahead and add that arrowhead again just here. So I'll just scroll down like so and add that to the top. Of course, that's entirely optional, and whatever works for you, I'm sure will be cool. So now I'll go ahead with the line tool again, and I'm just going to draw a line coming away from that like so at about 30 degrees. And you can actually see, okay, that the heads up display here shows you when you're at 30 degrees, although after the point, you've also got the option here to change that. Now again, I'll go ahead and apply that graphic style to it, okay, like so. Let's zoom in on that. And what I'm then going to do is to create 2 more copies of that and then just scale them down a bit as we go. So I'll just tap V on my keyboard. Holding down Alt or Option, I'm going to drag a copy up like so, and Shift might be a good idea, by the way, to actually keep that connected there, or constrained, and then Command D or Control D to duplicate that. Then it's just a matter of getting hold of these points just here and bringing them in like so. Okay, so I'm just going to make these each slightly shorter than the one before. There we go, just a little bit like that. Whoops, if I undo that, I'll try that again. So there we go, like that. And if you wanted to, you could always go ahead and just change the angle of that. If you'd skewed away from the 30 degrees, might have actually stayed there, but that's entirely up to you also. I'll then select those three and tap O on my keyboard to get the reflect tool. I'll come down to the bottom one just here, or in fact to the guideline just there, because I haven't drawn them exactly from the guide. Hold down Alt or Option and click, which brings you in the dialog just here, and choose vertical. Then hold down Alt or Option again and hit return, which creates you a copy like so. Once that's done, you can go ahead and select all of the branches that you've just made just there of the star. And then you can group those together if you want to. Tap R to get the rotate tool, and then come down to the intersection of your guides just here. Okay, hold down the Alt or Option key and click. That brings you the dialog up like so. Enter a value of 60 degrees just there. Okay, then hold down Alt or Option and hit return again to create a copy, and then Command D 1, 2, 3, 4 times just there, and you can see how easy it is to make a snowflake in Illustrator. And there are many different ways you can vary this as well to make your own design, but the essential principles are there. And that's it. We're done for now, and I'll see you next time here in the Work Smarter Not Harder dojo. See ya.